With Blue Link Plus, you can access your Hyundai Tucson Limited remotely. Doors unlocked, temperature set, lost car found.
There it is.
Get complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.
Imagine the softest sheets you've ever felt. Now imagine them getting even softer over time. I'm here to tell you about Boll & Branch sheets. In a recent customer survey, 96% replied that Boll & Branch sheets get softer with every wash. They're made from the rarest organic cotton and designed to get even softer over time. Try their sheets with a 30-night guarantee plus 15% off your first order with code Odyssey. So head to BOLLandbranch.com today. Exclusions apply. See site for details.
This is Kansas State's Felix Enyedike Uzama, and you're listening to the Power Cat Podcast on the 24/7 Sports Podcast Network. Make sure you're subscribing to this show on your favorite podcast provider.
Welcome to a championship-winning edition of the Power Cat Questions Podcast. That's right. We are claiming the championship of all podcasts, at least in the Big 12 region, for ourselves. Tim Fitzgerald, Zach Carlson, Cole Carmody, Ryan Gilbert. The whole gang is on hand, and I'm here. I'm here. I'm right here. And so is the Fridge Wholesale Liquor, our sponsor. They've been with us a very long time. I cheated on the Fridge this weekend while in Arlington. Actually, we were in Irving when I did the cheating. Went around, sledded around, and found another liquor store and bought me some Woodford Reserve. A lot of Woodford Reserve. A lot of Woodford Reserve. I don't know why I bought that bottle other than the fact that the price point was much better than the smaller bottle. It was like much more alcohol for not much more money.
Bang for your buck.
If you remember the sample, it looked like the prop bottle of whiskey that we used on the table.
It was
it was huge.
7.5 whatever, and it looked like it was basically the size of my head. And if you know me, I've got a very, very big head. Okay. This is how this podcast works. You ask the questions at Wabash Station. Our subscribers get to ask all the questions, and we do the answering. But here's the catch. Here is the thing. If you're not a subscriber and you enjoy some quality television or a quality movie like Maverick, Top Gun. Is it Top Gun Maverick or Maverick Top Gun?
I think it's Top Gun Maverick.
Mm-hmm. Okay, the latest Top Gun. If you enjoy those things, right now is your time. Right now. And see, this was a special we didn't know was coming. It was an unplanned special because the Paramount Plus side of CBS Viacom started their special and then said, hey, you want on board? So basically, roughly, 24/7 Sports and Paramount Plus cost the same for an annual subscription. And one of the great benefits of being a full-paying customer at GoPowerCat.com or 24/7 Sports, you get Paramount Plus for free. So it's like two for the price of one. Well, right now, we have piggybacked onto Paramount Plus's special. It's 50% off a subscription, and you get both. It's incredible. I mean, we're not going to make any money, Zach. We're going to have a garage sale, but we hope you take advantage of it. So you come join us at GoPowerCat.com. 50% off, and I believe it's upgradable. And it can't current
monthly.
Monthly, yes,
I believe monthly. If you're on a current special, sorry. Thank you for your business.
But if you're a monthly subscriber at GoPowerCat and you've been thinking, I want me some Paramount Plus and I want me full-time annual subscription, this is upgradable. Go get it at half price. Get your Paramount Plus. 1923, the latest Yellowstone prequel, is coming this month. And as I mentioned, Top Gun Maverick will be the only place you can watch it will be on Paramount Plus.
I think that's December 22nd.
Yes.
Tulsa King streaming now.
Tulsa King is also kick-ass. Can I say ass? Should I say ass on this podcast? Okay. Didn't want to make an ass of myself. Okay. But yeah, all that's going on right now. Make sure you're subscribing. And our YouTube, we finally made it over 7K today.
We did.
We went over 7K. Zach set the goal of 7,500 YouTube subscribers. I know that doesn't sound like a whole lot, but my goodness, our YouTube videos are blown up. So if you're not subscribing to our YouTube site, please just subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. It just continues to boost our algorithm.
Like and comment. And share the videos
Yes,
as well.
like, comment, share, call your mother about them. Maybe you want to grab some screenshots of me delivering a daily delivery for your Christmas cards. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but you could. Or just contact me and I'll send you something appropriate for your Christmas cards. Let's do a podcast now. It's gotten awkward. It's kind of awkward. Cole, you got the first half?
I do.
Here's Cole Carmody with your questions from Wabash Station. Onward we go.
The first question comes from KSU Cat 2010. Does Kansas State win the Big 12 championship and have the same record if Adrian Martinez starts all season?
Roll Tide! That's my only answer. No. And I don't like to say that. It sounds like I'm being mean to Adrian. Will Howard was special. And there was a consistency about him and a tenacity about him. I have problems saying that word. Wow. That really came through for K-State. Now, I'm not going to go back up and say they would have beaten Texas with Will Howard. They had a lot of problems on defense in that game. Adrian Martinez didn't play defense. So, yeah, I don't know. This is one of those exercises I don't see the purpose of, to be real honest. I mean, they are Big 12 champs. It worked out the way it worked out. It was a blessing. I'll be very intrigued to see how they're going to use the two quarterbacks in the bowl game, because they will use them both. There is no chance they're going to go to New Orleans and not play Adrian Martinez in meaningful snaps. It won't be cleanup, won't be mop-up. But they also recognize that Will Howard's the guy. I mean, there's no doubt about it at this point. Will Howard is the quarterback.
When you look at the schedule, I don't think that it's out of the question that K-State would get to the Big 12 championship with Adrian Martinez as the quarterback, simply because, they beat Oklahoma State 48-0. That means they didn't give up any points. All Adrian Martinez would have had to do is kick a field goal. We know how downhill Oklahoma State went after the game. I think you can say pretty confidently K-State would have won that game with Adrian under center. Texas, I agree with you. It doesn't matter. I get that they brought Adrian back, but again, they didn't win that game. Then you go to Baylor. K-State gave up 3 points against Baylor. Simply by that exercise, I would think it'd be pretty fair to say Adrian would get that win. And then West Virginia is West Virginia. Their defense couldn't stop a nosebleed. And then same thing with Kansas. I think if Adrian was back, they would have been able to.
Now, I will say this. I think there was a complementary facet, like Chris Kleiman talks about, with how Will Howard ran the offense that got the defense in tempo. And I'll be honest, I would have been worried at West Virginia that the offense with Adrian Martinez wouldn't have been able to outscore West Virginia because they were in score mode. But it was with Will Howard. There was no doubt about it. I had no doubt K-State was winning that game because Will would respond. Adrian didn't give me that feeling this year. And maybe it was just because Adrian never had an opportunity to fully discover what type of quarterback he was going to be at Kansas State before the injury set in.
I think it's easy to look at the defense and say, hey, the defense gave up no points. They didn't need to do anything. But I think you got to give Will Howard in the offense credit. Leaving, if they don't score, leaving the defense with good field position to be able to make the stop to keep 0 points on the board, or
for sure.
Keep the other team out of the end zone, keep them from kicking field goals, or keep them just kicking field goals. So I think there's a little bit of, like Fitz said, some complementary football there that the offense under Will Howard had that maybe wouldn't have been present with Adrian. But I think that they probably do end up winning those games down the stretch. I don't know if they win the Big 12 championship game. I think that's a whole different issue because I think Will played just as he needed to. And I don't know if Adrian would have done that in the championship game, but I think getting there, it's not unrealistic to expect that they could have done that.
None of you guys mentioned the Tulane game, and I think that's where the answer lies. Putting up 10 offensive points with Martinez, we didn't see Howard do that low of a number in any of his real starts or even the games where he played in as a backup and then, played as the number one quarterback. So that's really the answer, in my opinion. We didn't see any of that from Howard. We saw that from Martinez. Obviously, Martinez had some great moments, but the lows were not that low with Howard.
I get that. I just think when you look at the real Adrian Martinez, to me, came out against Oklahoma. That was his coming out party because he rolled it into the next week with Texas Tech, and they looked very good on offense in that game. Against Iowa State, I think it was, again, just kind of you got to survive at that point. It's the gauntlet of the Big 12, and on top of that, he gets hurt. So I understand where you're coming from, Ryan, but those two games against Oklahoma and Texas Tech, it was a completely different offense. It was like it was a revelation with not only Adrian, but with Colin Klein, too.
Yeah.
There was nothing that happened this season with Adrian Martinez, to me anyway, that gave me confidence that if he would have been the guy, they wouldn't have ended up right where they were. Again, who knows if they win the championship game? It's not. Let's be honest. It's not like Will Howard played an amazing game in the championship game. Going back and rewatching that game, he did what he needed to do. He was a great game manager. He wasn't special, but he did what he needed to do. He didn't turn the ball over, that kind of stuff. So, I just think that they're different quarterbacks and the offenses look different. Honestly, I think that's just the bottom line.
Okay.
Next question comes from Adam K63. Did the Big 12 Conference market the conference championship game well?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any doubt about it. It was a fun atmosphere. It was well put together. It was cool. Brett Yormark came up before the game to talk to me personally.
Just you.
Well, I invited the other media guys along. I mean, why wouldn't I?
How nice of you.
I know. And I even let them stand in front of me. Anyhow, I thought it was really well done. The key here was getting College Game Day. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if he had anything to do with that or College Game Day just simply looked at, what actually played out. This was the most competitive, most important game in terms of, head-to-head competition. This was going to be a good game. And TCU seemed going into the week needed to win that game to get in, but it turned out because of USC choking out west that they didn't need there.
I'm not so sure that even though they lost that game, say USC wins, I think TCU's still in the playoff.
They might be. Just depending on how that game played out.
Could you imagine? That would have been one heck of an interesting selection show if that would have happened.
Yeah. But we'll see. We'll see how it all goes in the future. But the TV ratings were phenomenal for this game. It again underscores what I've been saying. This conference plays an entertaining brand of football that people want to watch. They play games that people want to bet on. And it's not like, superficial football. And the Big 12 played that. We're just going to score a bunch of points and have bad defenses. These are both teams that can put up points and have good defenses and are good in special teams. They were the two best special teams programs in the Big 12. And I don't think it's by chance that your two best special teams programs floated to the top because the window between victory and defeat was so narrow this year that maybe that was all the difference you needed was to put that extra effort into special teams.
I'll be curious to see. I understand that the correct me if I'm wrong, but the Pac-12 had a little bit higher ratings than the Big 12 did this year, right? Is that right, or was it the other way around?
No, the Big 12 was
Big 12 was ahead of the Pac-12. Yeah. Okay, so I wonder if a lot of that was due to the time slot and it being a Saturday as opposed to a Friday night. I just think that if you put that game, say you flip-flop the SEC and the Big 12, and you play the Big 12 at 2:30 and you play the SEC at 11, I think the Big 12 would have the highest ratings out of everybody, simply due to the time slot. If there's one complaint that I had about how they handled everything, it's that it's an 11 a.m. kickoff. I understand that, we like 11 a.m. kickoffs as people in the media, but I think for the casual fan who just simply turns on the TV, usually you do things in the morning, right? Typical person wakes up on a Saturday. If they want to get errands done, they get errands done on Saturday morning. They come back around lunchtime. Okay, fine. You do finish what you need to do, and then you turn football on, and by that time, it's the second half of the K-State TCU game in this case. I think if they would find a way to put it in the late afternoon or even in prime time, then the ratings would be just a little bit higher. But you're right. The fact that they play a good brand of football makes it that people who are more than just casual fans want to tune in.
I disagree with you because this was the College Game Day game, and it goes straight from College Game Day into the kickoff of this
I agree
game.
with, yes.
Granted, there is a channel change. You had to go from ESPN to ABC, and that might affect a little bit, but not really. It's the only game on. You're not competing with anybody, but that's 5-6+ hours of coverage of one game. Essentially, I get that the preview show covers all of the games of the day and the Pac-12 championship recap the night before, but that's 6 hours of focus on one game all at the same time. I don't think you can ask for anything better than having your championship game, get game day, and go straight into the game. I think that having a lull between and having, a night kickoff or whatever, nobody cares about the ACC and the Big Ten championship games. I mean, they're at the same time. You got to pick one or the other.
Well, the SEC, because those games sucked.
They sucked too, but also those. I'd rather go first and have a great game and make all the others, be ones that you want to turn off.
Objectively speaking, this was the best game of the day. It was a top 10 matchup in the country. So,
and
I don't
it ended
know
up being the best
Zach
game.
or Cole's argument. Maybe Zach, just because this was the best game, it's not like this was, number 3 against number 19. So this was the best game, and people did want to tune into it. I don't think the time of day really matters too much. It was just, hey, what else are you going to tune into at 11 a.m.?
I mean, if you're a college football fan, you're tuning into College Game Day. Let's say you're not a fan of any of the teams, and you're a college football fan. You are tuning into College Game Day. You're not tuning into Big Noon Kickoff. You're tuning into College Game Day, and you're going to watch probably the game that's on ESPN right after. And that's for the regular season. I get that this one was on ABC. But if you're a college football fan, you're watching Game Day, and you're going to watch that first game. And it happened to be K-State, TCU, where they were at. I will argue forever the 11 a.m. time slot after Game Day is the best spot for visibility, marketability that you could want as a fan of a program playing in that game.
I agree. It's changed so much through the years, and there's still something about being in a primetime slot on one of the networks. Not ESPN. I'm talking you're on ABC or Fox or in other leagues, NBC and CBS. And particularly if you don't have a lot of competition. We did have a game week this year where all 4 networks were broadcasting a college football game. First of all, that doesn't happen very often. Second of all, that shows the value of college football, that they all had value in, no, we're not going to counter program. We got a good game. We got Notre Dame on NBC. We've got the SEC on CBS. And so everyone put games out there. That was very intriguing when that happened. But you come back to this. The Pac-12 had USC, absolutely their biggest name. You had Michigan, which is one of the biggest draws for viewership, and it showed up, even though they were playing a pretty mediocre Purdue team. That game was somewhat interesting into the fourth quarter. There was still a chance that Purdue was going to come back. You had Georgia and LSU, 2 of the bigger names in the SEC playing. And then you had Clemson in the ACC championship, and really right now that's the only valuable brand in the ACC. Maybe Florida State, if they get their together, would rejoin them. And then you had TCU and K-State. And I don't think anyone at this table or anyone in wearing purple in this conference is going to argue that those are one of the bigger names in the conference, at least right now. And yet the ratings were just behind. If you stop looking at the millions, which is, cool that almost 10 million people watched. But if you look at the actual rating, the Big Ten and SEC had a 5.5. The Big 12 had a 5.3. So it was really on the heels. And the next highest was the Pac-12 at 5.1. No. At 4.3. No. At 3.3. So that tells you the kind of gap there was. That wasn't the Big 12 came in third and the Pac-12 came in fourth. That was the Big 12 came in a very close third, and the Pac-12 was a distant fourth. And again, I come back to this. The TV partners have done so much injustice to the non-Oklahoma and Texases in this conference by consistently putting those 2 schools in every best time slot. They have not built other brands out. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter as much as what we thought. And a lot of people think, you still see it on Twitter, OU and Texas fans, well, we get all the ratings. You probably get half the ratings we do. And that's not true at all. We just saw it. This was the highest rated Big 12 championship since 2018. And that 2018 game was the dream scenario for the networks, Oklahoma, Texas. And it had higher ratings, yes, but it was less than 10% higher. And that's really the bump I see from the brand name. It's 10%. And that's built up through a reflex of all the years of those programs being on network TV and being in the forefront. And it's happened since the end of World War II, since the advent of television. Nebraska, Oklahoma, Texas, Michigan, Notre Dame, Ohio State, USC, UCLA, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, LSU. These are all programs that have been on your television set since a television set was introduced in the living room. That's a lot to overcome. And yet we're seeing it happen because the type of football they play in this conference is so damn compelling. People want to watch. And that includes if Kansas is playing West Virginia. They did that in week 3. That was an incredible football game. So I'm just over the moon about the new 12. And next year it'll be 14, and the year after it'll be 14. 12 of those teams are in bowls. 12 of those schools are in bowls. It's incredible what this conference has come to be.
The next question comes from Call Me T22.
I don't want to. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it.
What would a Big 12 title and a Sugar Bowl victory over Alabama do for the program moving forward?
Well, first of all, I think we get a pet elephant if you beat Alabama. Isn't that how it works?
I think so.
You get a pet elephant if you beat Alabama.
Can I say this? I think that the recruiting impact people expect and want with a victory over Alabama will not come in this upcoming class, right? If you think that beating Alabama and, I think it might not be felt until the class of 25, to be completely honest, because a lot of these kids in the class of 24, K-State is starting to get in with, right? But they're not the super, super high targets that, these Alabamas and the Ohio States of the world. They already know who they're going to go after for 24. They've already planted that seed. If you really want to start recruiting at a higher level and consistently get 4-star recruits, that's going to start in 2025. These kids that are already big-time prospects that come out and they watch, who's Alabama playing? Nick Saban was just talking to me the other day. They're playing K-State. K-State comes out and whoops them. Well, then that might have a little bit more impact than, the junior who's already gone on 3 unofficial visits to Georgia, LSU, and Alabama, right? Like, if you want to start recruiting with the big boys, that is not going to happen until the class of 2025. I'm sure if we asked our own Ryan Wallace that question, he'd probably agree with me. But I think in general, like, beating Alabama is huge. And we talked about last year, beating LSU in the Texas Bowl is big, right? Sure. But winning the Texas Bowl was more important than actually beating the opponent. I think it's reversed this year. I think beating Alabama, no matter who the coach is more important than whatever bowl game that you're in, because at the end of the day, that Alabama is going to be competing for the playoffs year in and year out. They don't lose postseason games that often, and so for K-State to have a win over Alabama in the postseason is something that they will hang and they will talk about until Chris Klieman leaves K-State.
Agreed. Anyone else?
I mean, Nick Saban's one of the best coaches in football, so it doesn't matter who his players are. It doesn't matter who opts out. If Chris Klieman can beat one of the legends, that's a statement right there, because they're backups. Doesn't matter who's playing. That would be a heck of a win.
Is he better, say, than the guy coaching the Denver Broncos?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Probably.
I want to see, and we've talked about this off air, but I want to see Nick Saban and Chris Klieman line up and take a picture with all their championship rings.
They're not going to bring their rings to the game, Cole. You got to get over this.
There's no media opportunity where they can all line up, and the coaches, it's like boxing where they're looking at each other, except it's like the Jordan picture where they just hold their hands out and they get all the rings.
Did Jordan win
considering the number of stories that are going to be written about this, because I'm certain that Kellis or whoever is going to write plenty of stories about, this is, back from 2018, a couple of dynasties are finally meeting each other at the same level.
It would be cool.
It's a cool storyline, and I would love to see a ring picture, but like Fitz said, I don't think anybody's bringing those rings, so it's a shame.
Let's text Coach Klieman and tell him to bring his rings.
I can't.
We can hold him in. We can hold him in the hotel room.
I can't do that. This is a funny story because I had Chris Klieman's cell number from when he was at North Dakota State, and earlier this year I texted something funny to that number, and the person replied, "Wrong number." So either he doesn't want to hear from me, or someone else has that phone number now, and he's getting texts from people that still think a football coach has that.
Or he has 2 phones.
Well, who has his phone? Who?
Yeah, he has 2 phones.
And he's just telling me
both
wrong.
of them.
He's just telling me wrong number because he didn't want to talk to me.
He doesn't like you. Get out of
God,
here.
I don't know what he does.
Shut your mouth, Fitz. Shut your mouth.
He told me to shut my mouth this year.
Multiple times.
Oh yeah, it's Look, I think this will have a play in recruiting. Cole's right; it won't be this year. I mean, they're limited to on scholarships already. But this is part of the process. This is what I've been saying. You have to take these steps to get into these homes. You can do what Colorado did and go hire a coach that I personally don't think will work, but he's going to recruit at a high level. I think that's going to be one of the most glorious implosions in all college football history, but that's a whole different topic. For Kansas State, you got to just keep kind of creeping into the light. Get a little more visible. And this is why I think the 12-team playoff is so important for Kansas State. If this game was if K-State was in the playoff, whether they would be one of the 4 conference champions who has a bye, which they wouldn't have been based on the final ratings. I mean, that makes the final ratings even more interesting in how they go about that. Or they're just hosting. And you win the first game and then you get just get waxed in the next round with a team that had a bye. So be it. You're on the big stage, and maybe that helps you get a couple more players. And then you're back there the next year, and you get some more players. You've got to keep getting that exposure. Keep finding your way to get into the light. And pretty soon everyone's going to know you and think of you in many of the same ways. Because Chris Klieman isn't going to go out and, Jerome Tangent and all of a sudden be in the home of 4- and 5-star guys just because of force of personality and his association with Baylor basketball or whatever it would be. That's not how it's going to work. It's not how it's ever worked at Kansas State with football. You got to win. You got to build. You got to climb that ladder. There's no overnight success. You got to keep going up. And that's what Chris Klieman's got this program doing. And I'll be very entertained to see if this translates now when we get to 2024, which is one season away. Now, weird to think about. We got next season 4 teams, and then it's 2024. If they start getting consistently into that 12-school, 12-program playoff, the visibility of this program is going to go through the roof.
You mentioned it, but we'll go ahead and ask the next question from Autumn_Cat. Can we expect a sizable recruiting bump from this season's performance and playing Alabama in the Sugar Bowl?
Yeah, you know what? There will be a bump. But we just saw a decommitment from a player, and I can't explain that. Kids do what they want to do. I think what we'll see from this season is maybe a higher level, not that they've been getting bad kids to the transfer portal, but they might be able to identify even better players coming through the portal that want to fit into what Kansas State's football is about. Because now you watch these games and you realize, well, Kansas State football isn't just about they're a good team. It's about a culture. It really is. It's pretty obvious that there's something more going on than just winning football games with talent. And maybe some even higher level players coming through the portal will want to be part of that.
And we're going to talk about that with the next question, but I want to touch on this too. I know I talked about it with the last question. If you're consistently trying to recruit the 4-star recruits, then yeah, like I said, I think it's going to take some time. But if you want to beat out the teams you have been consistently losing to, that is why this game is important. The Iowa States and the Nathan Shieldhouses of the world that continually come down and absolutely kick your behind, that is why this season was important. For you to establish your dominance in the Big 12. For Oklahoma State, who K-State also consistently loses kids to, for them to just be absolutely imploding this year, that is huge. I mean, it has been the perfect storm when it comes to recruiting with all the surrounding programs. Now, take KU out of this for a minute because I think they're going to start to pick up their in-state recruiting and their local recruiting, so that's going to become an issue. But you're not going to be losing kids as much now. I say that there's a very good chance the kid you talked about maybe ends up at one of these schools. But I think it's important because you are going to consistently start beating the Oklahoma States, the Iowa States, the Iowas, the Nebraskas. Not that they haven't been beating them before.
They take their players.
Yeah, there you go. The point is, you're starting to elevate your program in the Midwest, in this region, and I honestly think that is how K-State continues to win, is by recruiting those kids that the other schools continue to miss on, and K-State continues to get.
I think that, you look at this last class. You have Avery, 4-star. That's one of the biggest recruiting wins in a long time for K-State. But you look next year and seeing the success of this season, the Big 12 Championship, playing in the Sugar Bowl, what it means. Maybe you get 2 4-stars a year. You're not going to be landing 10, 15 4-stars a year with, a handful of 3-stars and maybe a 5-star here and there. It's going to take time, as it's been mentioned, to kind of ladder up. I think that getting Avery was this huge win for K-State on the recruiting, landscape of things for the rankings, stars, whatever. But if you keep winning like this, those types of guys are going to be more frequent and they're going to come here more often. So I think that, it's going to take time, but it's already on the process of going up.
I agree. And obviously this season's going to be big no matter what happens next season. But if next season K-State goes out and goes 6-6 and plays some, Vanderbilt in a bowl game or something, does this season really get remembered as greatly? If K-State goes out and makes a New Year's Six game or even the Cotton Bowl or something next year.
You always remember the conference title, but if you Baylor this thing, win the title, and then go to 6-6, it's going to take a lot of shine off that trophy.
Yeah. Yep. The last question of the first half comes from TDE67. Does this Big 12 title have a bigger impact on the transfer portal pickups or the high school recruiting class? This is a great question, by the way.
I think it's the portal this year.
I do too.
I do too. And it wasn't that they won, but the visibility of the product and the quality of the product on both sides of the ball, I think would be attractive to someone in the portal. But K-State runs the portal different. They're not out there looking for the former Alabama player. They want guys that fit into their locker room, period, end of story. And, maybe those come from the FCS level. I don't know what they're going to find out there, but they're going to bring in some good players. And I'm fine with this year, the transition being they've got a few guys they still want from the high school ranks, but just go get portal guys, particularly if they're sophomores or, they got, we're seeing the end remnants of the COVID years now that guys still have a bonus year out there. So I just saw a guy was going to be a graduate transfer with 2 years to play. If you can get a guy like that, that's tremendous. So
what I think is interesting is that, my prediction, not necessarily a prediction, what I could see happening with this group is instead of really hitting the transfer portal super hard, there's a lot of these seniors that can come back for their extra year of COVID that say, we just won a Big 12 championship. I've been here all this time. This is what I've worked for. We're one step away from maybe doing it again and making a college football playoff and taking that next step. We saw TCU do it. We beat them. I could see a lot of seniors saying, you know what? I want to come back.
I meant to include a question. Yeah. Sorry to whoever asked it, but it did talk about speculating on who you think might return for a super senior season, so we can kind of get into that there if you guys want to go there.
I do. I mean, not necessarily individual people.
Sure. But,
let's just use a Malik Knowles for an example. I would never have thought in a million years I'd be saying the sentence that I think Malik Knowles would maybe try and come back for a super senior season. But if you're Malik, seriously, realistically, when you talk to people around the NFL and you find out that, hey, I can probably play in the NFL, but if I stay one more season with a quarterback who's likely going to be potentially the quarterback on the first team preseason All Big 12. We've seen a guy, he's thrown 15 touchdowns and 2 interceptions this year. You look at Malik, he's benefited greatly from having Will as his quarterback. Do you think about saying, I want to have one more year to where I can put on film with a really good quarterback to potentially go play at the next level, along with maybe staying and having a lot of team success? I think that is the type of guy. Or you throw in an Echo Boydo. That's another one of those guys who I've said before. It's like they're so close. They're on the cusp of potentially making the NFL. Now they've had all this team success. Maybe it makes them want to stay. And so I do think that the portal pickups, or to answer the question, will be more impacted because those are the instant impact guys. But in this case, I'll say that, honestly, winning the Big 12 probably has more influence on having your own guys that want to stay.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the 4 guys in the transfer portal this year, and I don't mean this as an insult, there's no tangible loss here. I'm happy for Jaron Lewis. Go get you a good senior season. I don't know what level that'll be at, but go have fun, man. You paid your dues here, and you played a role, and you helped the program through some rough times. So I'm happy for some of these kids. But, yeah, I think they're going to bring in some portal guys, and honestly, to be cold-blooded about it, they've probably got some more guys on this roster that are going to end up in the portal more by the coach's choices than theirs. That's the way it works now.
I still think that there's probably some guys on this roster that you can look at and say, hey, you're the Eli Huggins of the year. You're our best signing of the class that's come back. So I think that getting back kind of to the question about transfer portal versus high school, it's going to be the portal. But if you look at the guys that were on the field that won this Big 12 championship for K-State, and even just for the season, you have Adrian Martinez, you have Julius Brents, you have Josh Hayes, you have guys out there on the field that helped you win this championship. So I think that this further proves the portal works, but you got to find guys that fit your locker room and can fit into the system that you want to use, because like a guy like Josh Hayes coming from the FCS level,
he went to Virginia, but yeah, fair enough.
Initially, yeah, my bad, but. Did I really screw that up completely?
Yeah, you did, but that's okay. We're just going to go.
Who came from?
No, he did, but Cheatham played it.
FCS
played Cheatham.
Prairie View. The farm system of Kansas State.
Yes, Prairie View A&M. Wow. But my point is that it works, and it doesn't matter what level of football these guys are playing at.
You take a Josh Hayes, you bring him in. He was a great cornerback at North Dakota State. He goes to Virginia, doesn't play much for, honestly, a bad program. What's turned out to be a bad program. And he comes to Kansas State, and oh, by the way, we're going to move you to safety. You've never played that before. And he turns out to be really good. I mean, that's just bought in. It'd have been easy for him to say, I'm not playing safety. I didn't come here to play safety. I'm a corner. But he bought in. So they continue to find those guys that buy in. It didn't work on every level. They had problems at linebacker that were all because of washouts from the portal. They're going to have to do a better job from top to bottom with this portal class.
Do you want to hear my one bold prediction on a player that nobody's talking about that might come back?
Who?
And I'm going to give you the reason why. Daniel Green.
No.
Hear me out. Daniel Green was hurt for pretty much the entire season, right? You agreed with me before the season, and we all sat here and agreed that Daniel Green is an NFL linebacker.
Right.
Is it fair to say there might be some questions regarding that right now?
No. Not with Daniel Green. I think that's really, at the end of the day, what it matters. I think Daniel knows he'll play at the next level. And you're right. Maybe he would have been a draft pick coming out last year, and he won't be this year. But your clock's running, man.
What is there to prove at this point?
Yeah.
And I understand that. But, again.
That's why I think Malik's same way. Malik sees himself as an NFL receiver. I don't necessarily agree with that. But if that's what you believe, then go do it. I'm kind of weird about this. I think your commitment is to your team as long as you want to be part of it, in terms of seasons. I hate guys that sit out for bowl games. Now, I understand if it's a meaningless game, but if you're at the level like Alabama where the Sugar Bowl is meaningless to you, that's more your problem. That's rich football tradition problems. But I think there's guys on this team that need to come back. There's guys on the team that need to go. Cooper Beebe. Go, man. I know you want to play with your brother. I know you love this. Offensive linemen have a shelf life. Go get your money. I mean, because it's life-changing money if you do it right.
I just will be fascinated to see if there's any players that want to come back and the coaches say no.
Oh, yeah. There will.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Out of the ones that have a chance to play in the NFL or just in general?
Probably more just in general than the ones that necessarily have a chance in the NFL. But I really think that we're going to have somebody that's going to come back and we're going to be like, what? Why are they coming back? Because we think they would go play. And that would be your Eli Huggins type returner. So I think winning the Big 12 does that, to be completely honest.
Yeah, we'll see. People brought up on the message board, Christian Duffy might be doing that, which would mean he will have started 7,000 straight games. It's kind of impressive.
Hayden
Gillum might. Seth Porter with special teams seems to be someone that he would love to have to come back. I'm not sure. Nick Allen, maybe? I'm not sure. So it won't be quite as impactful as Zentner and Huggins, but they can be really valuable pieces of this team. That's it for the first half of the PowerCat Questions podcast. That was a podcast all of its own. Why? Because I sometimes don't shut up, but I'm going to do it right now, right after I say Fridge Wholesale Liquor.
This is Kansas State's Cooper Beebe. The leaders in K-State sports coverage will be right back with more of the PowerCat podcast.
The NFL regular season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is so easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays. Find bets in the new Explore tab. Make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/247 and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Must be 21 plus and present in Arizona, Colorado, Connecticut, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, permitted parishes only, Massachusetts, Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, or Wyoming. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino, LLC. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG in Colorado, Iowa, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Virginia. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342 in Arizona, 1-888-789-7777, or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut, 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana, 1-800-522-4700, or visit ksgamblinghelp.com in Kansas, 1-877-770-STOP in Louisiana. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Visit 1-800-GAMBLER.net in West Virginia, or call 1-800-522-4700 in Wyoming. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York, or visit oasas.ny.gov/gambling. Standard text messaging rates apply. Sports betting is void in Georgia, Hawaii, Utah, and other states where prohibited.
My days working, taking care of my little ones can be a lot. I checked out Care.com and it was so easy for me to find local, experienced, and background check sitters. Finding our babysitter was way more affordable than I thought.
Care.com makes it super easy.
Search for qualified candidates. You can view their profiles, read reviews and ratings, check their availability, send messages directly, and get the help that you need. Care.com should be every person's go-to.
This is Kansas State's Daniel Green, and welcome back to the PowerCat Podcast on the 24/7 Sports Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the PowerCat Questions podcast, sponsored by Fridge Wholesale Liquor. And folks, I've got breaking news from the beer portal, where the beers end up at the fridge. Our friends at Manhattan Brewing Company, downtown Manhattan, created a sour. Now, look, I'm not a sour guy, but some of you might like it. It is a Tangerine Cascade dry hop sour called Tang Party. It's the Jerome Tang alcohol selection. It's now canned and available at the fridge, or just drop by our friends at Manhattan Brewing Company. They have it too. But man, Tang Party. That's a great name for the beer alone.
Is he officially involved in it?
I don't know if he gets anything from it, but they're sure as hell using his image in this ad.
Yeah.
I know. But, it's one of those things. It's like being married. You just do stuff, and if you get in trouble later, okay, you deal with that. But maybe you get away with it. Like this shirt I bought. I got away with that. I didn't ask. That's how I live on the edge. Hey guys, they almost trusted me with jury duty today, and then they realized we can't do that.
You can't have criminals sitting on the jury.
It was an aggravated assault, and I probably just would have yelled, "I would have whooped that ass too!" And then I would probably gotten into trouble with the judge. So I can't do that. Anyhow, speaking of whooping ass, that's what we're doing on this podcast, and someone's going to read a bunch of more questions from Wabash Station. I don't know who. Someone do it.
The first question of the second half comes from Power Cat Ryan.
That's me.
No, it's not.
It's my burner.
Somewhat lost in all of the celebration of the Big 12 championship is the fact that K-State wins 10 games in the Big 12 title and is coached by a guy not named Snyder. How much will that help with recruiting, fundraising, and overall respect from the college football world?
Well, there's a lot of people out there that it said it'd only be done by Bill Snyder that are like, oh, no, I was wrong. Maybe they're not admitting, oh, it was a fluke. 10 wins was a fluke. I mean, he just came in and did something that is incredibly hard to do. I don't want to call out another coach in this conference who apparently can walk on water.
Who might be
or
actually
across a really nice bridge. I don't know which.
Or who might actually be looking at another job.
Really? Huh.
Purdue. Shout out to King Jim.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Who is this Jesus we speak of?
He's from a soup conglomerate.
His name is Cat Mamble.
Okay. Yeah, I'm familiar with Cat.
That guy, is worshipped and highly thought of and hasn't ever won 10 games. And neither has the program at which he coaches. And Chris Kleiman just did it in year 4. I mean, it's a huge accomplishment. And it does blow away everyone who said only one guy could do it in little old Manhattan, because Kleiman's doing it with a lot of similarities to Bill Snyder and also some differences. But the core philosophy about the type of people you bring in, the type of locker room you foster, all of those things is so important to both of those coaches. But he's a different approach. We all recognize a different approach he has despite that. So it's working. Different style is getting it done in Manhattan.
You know what the sad part is? There's probably still people around the country that didn't know that Bill Snyder wasn't the coach at K-State.
It could be.
Like, I wonder how many people tuned in on Saturday who hadn't watched a single down at K-State and was like, Snyder's not the coach?
It's quite possible one of them's named Stephen A. Smith.
No kidding. So honestly, in all fairness, like,
idiot.
There's a lot of people that turn on a Virginia Tech game and be like, oh, what's his name? Frank Beamer? I'm surprised he's not the coach anymore. And he's been retired for how long? I don't even know.
Fuentes isn't even the coach anymore.
I know. They're on their second coach.
Yeah. So it's like, I would understand, like, if you're just playing, I think it does. To answer the question, it 100% helps K-State. And I don't know, you would have a better idea on the fundraising, but goodness gracious. If you're an alum, they're putting up this beautiful practice facility. They're building the volleyball center. They're getting things done around K-State. I was here. My dad came down and visited me, and I kind of just showed him around. He hadn't really seen all this new stuff, and it's pretty remarkable. I think we kind of take for granted sometimes the nice facilities that K-State has to work with, because you go look at some of these other Big 12 schools, and it's like, wow, like for what K-State had to now see what they have right now. Shout out to everybody involved in that, because it is really impressive, and this one helps that.
I agree with all that. Brian Gilbert, you got anything to say?
I feel like we've answered this question in a roundabout way like 3 different times about what the game did and the championship did.
But this is about getting
in the Sugar Bowl,
10 wins.
Getting 10 wins and recruiting. No, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly with everything.
I feel like...
Not half-heartedly?
Full.
I feel like the whole 10 wins thing is just kind of lost, because...
It is lost, that's true.
We don't really... And I've seen nobody really mention it, but, when you compare him to other coaches in the conference and how quickly he was able to do it, it's extremely impressive. And quite frankly, I would expect Gene to back a Brinks truck up to Chris Kleiman's house this offseason, because, his name maybe came up for the Nebraska job and that was it. But...
Will there actually be a Brinks truck?
Why doesn't he just give him a blank check? That'd be probably a little easier.
Brinks truck, blank check. Anything else you want to say about this?
I think Chris Kleiman, if you gave him a blank check, is an honest enough of a guy that he wouldn't go overboard with it. He might take like an extra $1 million or something, and that's it.
No, I would agree with that.
Doing K-State a favor if that's what he did.
He'd probably be like, I've seen the budget.
Yeah. The next question comes from Americat. What is the most important thing this staff and team will need to do in the next 12 months to sustain success?
There you go.
Sustain success and not have a letdown year.
You got to continue to find guys that fit into the whole family thing. I mean, you can't just drop a guy in because he's a 4-star running back, hypothetically saying, and drop him into that locker room and not expect some fallout from selfishness. fallout from attitude, fallout from a disruptive parent. So that's just continue to, worry about that locker room and go find playmakers, and everything will be okay. That's the thing that this staff has done. Bill Snyder 2.0, he got growingly more and more interested in recruiting good people at the cost of even being a good football player at times. And now we're seeing this staff kind of elevate the effort to find really good people, but they're also really good football players. And that's remarkable, and they got to try to keep that up.
Complacency is the biggest question. There's the biggest resounding answer for me.
I don't think that happens with Chris Kleiman.
I don't think so either, because he is, again, a man who's known how to win national championships. If you don't get complacent after winning a national championship and continuously win them year after year after year like he did at North Dakota State, I agree with you that he won't get complacent, and I don't think he'll let the team get complacent. But that's always the biggest worry after you have a big season is how do you avoid complacency, especially in college football, when we see teams like Clemson where this seems to happen every time they come off of a big season. And I guess in this case last year they didn't exactly have a big year, but I think complacency would be the biggest answer for me to avoid complacency.
Yeah, I agree. And you got to realize there's more to college football than winning a conference title, right? If you want to be the best of the best, you got to go win it all, right? And obviously that's a lot to say, but you can't get comfortable with winning a conference.
I think it's continuing to focus, maybe not on the next 12 months, but what the next 12 months are going to do for the next 36, 48 months, and continuing to build. I mean, figuring out what you're going to do to replace Deuce Vaughn, what you're going to do to replace Felix Anudike-Uzomah. It's not necessarily going to be a quick fix, a 12-month thing. You're going to have to continue to build, and whether that's someone that's already on your roster or somebody you need to get in the portal or somebody you need to get as a high school recruit. And I think it's probably more high school recruiting in that aspect and trying to get these guys that are still guys that are gems, kind of some diamonds in the rough that aren't really wanted by other programs that K-State can still capitalize with, because I think that recruiting pitch to a guy that's like a Deuce Vaughn that doesn't have any offers, and you can point at Deuce Vaughn and say, hey, you can be him, or regardless of the position, you can be that type of guy. I think that that's what K-State still can take advantage of over these next few months.
Fitz, I'm going to ask you a question. You were with me in agreement that VJ Payne had an outstanding game.
Yeah.
If without looking up who recruited him, you would probably tend to think he'd fit the K-State mold of the teams that they typically beat.
Right.
That actually would be incorrect. And this is the type of player that K-State can start to get on a consistent basis. He had offers from Arkansas. He had offers from Vanderbilt. He had an offer from Maryland, Michigan, Michigan State, and USC. So that's who K-State beat for VJ Payne, and it was a big get, obviously.
Yeah.
So I mean, that is the type of kid that K-State can get. Now, was there mid-majors that were interested in him? Sure. I go and I look at a kid like Jake Clifton, another one of those kids who K-State can win, right? Minnesota, Missouri, Illinois, Washington State. He chooses K-State. Those are the type of programs that they can consistently beat out, and they need to beat out to be successful over the next 12 months.
Agreed. I agree. They need to continue to elevate that recruiting level, and I think we're seeing them do that. Avery Johnson's a perfect example of that.
Yep. The next question comes from CW PowerCat. How many future head coaches do you think are currently on the K-State football staff?
It's a great question. It really is. I think we've had this before too, but Colin eventually, I would imagine. Connor Riley, I would imagine. Van Malone, I would hope. Maybe Joe Klanderman. That might be it. But
I mean, that's a good majority of your staff. You got pretty much all your positions taken care of besides running back, receiver. I mean, that's pretty dang good.
I hope Van Malone gets some interest in this cycle. I mean, I know people have kind of linked him to a good fit at UAB. I think he's a great fit at Jackson State.
That's a great point.
I have tried to pass on a message to Eric Harper at UNLV about Van Malone.
Well, they already hired their guy.
So who do they end up with?
Barry Odom from the old Missouri coach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
I'm a little surprised with that, honestly. I thought maybe they'd go a different direction. North Texas might be a good place for Van. I just think he's overdue. Not ready. He's overdue. But, it just comes to being at the right place. He was at SMU, and that didn't work out, and then he moved on. Now he's won a conference title as associate head coach. I think you're going to get some interest. I hope he does find something. I do think there's a number of head coaches.
Who's first to get a head coaching job?
Well, I mean,
Colin. I think it's probably Colin.
Obviously, it would be Van if he gets hired, because that's going to be in the next year or two. Yeah, I think if K-State has, next year, if K-State replicates the offensive success they had and it's more consistent, Will Howard might just get people some jobs. Oh, my, how his marketing has changed in a year.
I just cannot see Colin Klein.
2 months.
I just cannot see Colin Klein leaving without coaching a down of Avery Johnson.
No, I agree with you.
So,
I don't think it'll be anytime soon. But Colin moves on. I think Connor Riley becomes offensive coordinator. I think Joe Klanderman will get his shot. But, yeah, it's very intriguing how much talent. Is this like the Snyder 1.0 staff? No. I mean, you had Levitt and Stoops and Venables and Mangino and Dimmel. That's incredible, guys. And then, if I recall, the other guys were mostly older guys that, were brought in for experience, like Bob Cope. But, yeah, I think there's going to be head coaches off the staff. No doubt about it.
How about we take it a step further? How many players on this current team can be coaches? Or I guess will be coaches.
I'll be fascinated to see what Adrian does. Because I don't think he's an NFL guy. I don't think he has the arm anymore. I think he did, but I think whatever he had done to his shoulder didn't work out the best.
Cade Warner.
Both of those guys could be coaches or commentators.
Yeah, Cade's got the nice in, obviously.
Yeah, so both of those guys have a future in football, but what it's going to be, I'm not sure.
Things just didn't work out for Adrian, so I feel like he's going to have unfinished business, and obviously you're not good enough to play in the NFL, no more eligibility. You might as well coach and try to win that way.
I think he'll pursue. He'll try and play. I think he
will, but
Well, we said the same thing about Skyler last year. Let's be fair.
This is true.
It's true. Very true.
I will make the prediction again, saying that Adrian is closer to Jake Waters than being a quarterback in the NFL.
I think that's fair. I do.
And I also will say that I think that Adrian Martinez is more of the NFL type of quarterback that teams are looking for than Jake Waters was at that time. But that's
now there's another coach on this player on this team that we know wants to be a coach. He wants to be a coach because he's trying to finish up his degree, and that's Cooper Beebe.
True.
Cole Carmody? Oh.
Because he wants to coach. So he needs to get in his teaching. But how long will he play in the league? 5, 10 years? I don't know. That changes a lot of stuff. But when you're at that level at that point, maybe you just end up coaching in the league.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I'm not sure.
Coaching in college and not high school.
Yeah. So I think there's some dudes on this team that will be coaches. I mean, the Porter boys seem like coaches.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Next question comes from El Camino Cat. How do you think the Big 12 and future members, I can't talk today.
It's a small part of a podcast.
How do you think they'll do in the bowl games?
I don't like a lot of the matchups.
I think KU's going to lose. I'm just going to say that right now.
I liked that matchup when it was Missouri a lot, and I don't like it when it's Arkansas.
Because they were pretty good.
They were pretty good. And plus, it's going to be a home game for Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, if you want home games on a crappy stadium.
Who does UCF play? I'm looking at the bowl schedule right now.
Yeah, I don't even have it in front of me. That one caught me off guard.
Texas Tech, Ole Miss. That's not going to.
That's not good.
I don't like that at all. Although Tech is sneaky good at times.
Yeah, I can't see that happening.
Oklahoma State doesn't have a quarterback now.
No,
they got some issues, don't they?
They're going to get destroyed too.
I just don't know what's going on at Oklahoma State, but I think that thing might be coming apart at the seams right now.
And unfortunately, we have to include Texas in this against Washington. I think they'll win. I really think.
Well, I think Texas is a good team. I think Texas will win that game.
And I think Oklahoma can beat Florida State. I know Florida State has a really high ranking, but I don't think the ACC is any good. Just like I don't think the Pac-12 is that good. Oklahoma versus Florida State in the Cheez-It Bowl. It wouldn't surprise me if the Sooners lost, but that seems like a team that is kind of motivated. Like, they know that they had a pretty terrible year, and if Brent Venables is worth a damn, he's going to say, hey, we're going to use this game for next year to continue to build. So
Right. And they got better as the year went on.
Mm-hmm,
After K-State clowned them and derailed them, didn't clown them, beat them, stunned them. I guess Oklahoma State they clowned. I think K-State broke both Oklahoma schools this year.
Yep, I do too. UCF plays Duke. It seems like a UCF role to me.
I agree.
I mean, they were not a bad team this year. They had some interesting games, but
Unless algebra breaks out, then I'm going with Duke.
True. That's in the Military Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, if
that
one team has
Annapolis?
a tank and the other team has like an aircraft carrier, I'm going with the aircraft carrier. I don't know how the Military Bowl works. If you get actual weaponry,
This has to be one of the weirdest games where you have one of the biggest schools in the entire country versus one of the smallest schools at that level in the entire country.
Oh, but we're from Duke. We have Duke.
I'm
degree.
Riley Gates.
We need to bleep that name out.
Yeah. Wisconsin, Oklahoma State, like we mentioned. Wisconsin's bad. They lost their quarterback. Oklahoma State's bad. They lost their quarterback. Who's going to want to watch that game? Oh, my goodness.
Degenerates.
9:15 on December 27th. Oh, who's going to watch that game? We're probably going to watch that game.
We're watching that game somewhere.
Yeah, we're probably going to watch that game. As Zach and I share a bed because we don't.
I don't want to talk about it. We're working on it.
Okay.
My God, Zach, did you want that out?
We'll get them a blow up mattress. It'll be
Thank
okay.
you. Do we count Missouri in this? They play Wake Forest.
Hang on. We got one question. One more question regarding Missouri.
Oh, okay.
Why don't you ask that about
Okay, well,
Missouri?
the last one is Houston versus Louisiana. I have no idea if Louisiana is any good, but it's a home game for Louisiana because they're literally playing in Shreveport.
The Independence
That's
Bowl?
not. Louisiana's in Lafayette. They aren't in Shreveport.
Okay, but it's in the same state.
But it's not literally.
No.
Yeah, you took
said literally.
You took literally way too figuratively.
And Baylor. Baylor plays Air Force 2.
Is that a home game?
Hold on.
It is
Is it in
Fort
like
Worth.
the middle of the
So
air?
there's a
like in
military
the sky?
bowl, and Baylor's actually playing the military?
And they're playing in the armed forces.
That's the armed forces. There's the military and there's the armed forces.
Why don't we have a third one?
So they can only play with their arms?
Yeah, but forcefully. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
But the Air Force, that game's going to be up in like an airplane on top of a...
Just,
This podcast is going off the rails. Okay, the last question comes from KSU number 1. How does Mizzou get away with dictating that they won't play KU in a bowl?
Well, because the SEC is the only conference that assigns their schools, and I kind of like it. I kind of like that the SEC says, no, we're going to put the teams in the bowls that make the best sense in terms of geography and records and matchups. And I think Missouri called up the SEC and said, please help us. We don't want to play Kansas because they'll kick our ass. Mm-hmm. We don't want that on our shoulders. Cowards. They went to a crappy bowl game, and maybe that's the way it shook out because they were 6-6. What's Arkansas? I don't even know.
6-6.
But the Arkansas, I think Arkansas is a much better team.
Yeah. Well, Missouri's actually playing the better team in Wake Forest, which is kind of ironic that they get to play against a team that's better than KU.
I don't.
But it's also great for Arkansas to get to play in the Liberty Bowl because they love, for whatever reason, that bowl game.
Well, it's just across the river.
It's just across the river.
You just cross a big bridge, and all of a sudden you're in a whole new world. Yeah, I want to say this. I don't think Wake Forest is better than KU. I will take almost any Big 12 team over the ACC. I mean, you just go back and rewind it and look at how competitive a bad West Virginia team was with Pitt. Pitt didn't turn out to be great this year, but I just think the
How
ACC 's
bad did
trash.
Wake Forest get if we're having this discussion?
Yeah,
How bad did they tank after the Clemson game or what?
Apparently. But
all I know is K-State is 3.5-point underdogs to Alabama. KU is a 3.5-point underdog to Arkansas.
That's very interesting.
Surely Arkansas's got more players active in that game than Alabama.
Yeah. Yeah, I would think so. We still don't know about Alabama. We don't know where it's going. I've been kind of caught off guard by the number of Alabama players hitting the portal.
11 at this point?
Starters.
On their site, yeah.
Some starters.
Where is there to go? What exposure do you need? What NIL money do you need? You're already at Alabama.
That's exactly what I'm asking myself. So that tells me maybe they just don't like the program and Saban, which I find a little bit – I know he's Snyderish, old school, but
Hey, anybody talks with him, you coach with him. You got some skeletons in his closet. He ain't the guy that you think he is.
Let me just ask you, we were on the Sugar Bowl preview, whatever, the introductory conference. Did he look just totally disinterested in being
absolutely
involved? It was annoying. He just looked dour and down, and really what was amazing to me is they were off this weekend, and he knew he was probably going to the Sugar Bowl, and everyone knew Kansas State was going to the Sugar Bowl. I can tell you with 100% certainty in that same circumstance, Bill Snyder watches that game.
He does not care.
He doesn't care. I don't know if it's just indifference about this bowl game and the end of the season because it doesn't mean anything. They're not in the playoff, or an indifference towards Kansas State. But I was really put back by Saban's whole demeanor in that press conference. It bothered me. I don't know what it is.
Saban seems like the get off my lawn type.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't like kids having fun.
Go buy some Aflac.
But does Deion now get that entire contract? Because they brought in Deion as the number 2 Aflac pitch guy, and maybe he's going to be more important for Aflac.
These are the important...
But the Duck is the star of the
important
ads.
things we talk about.
The Duck is clearly the star of the ads. That's it for the Power Cat Questions podcast, right?
If you stuck around for this thing, you are a real one.
Yeah, we went over an hour. We went over an hour, and we tried not to do that, but I had stuff to say, including I might have to go get some Tang Party because there's nothing quite as sweet as a sour Tang Party. Huh?
Thank you for listening to the Power Cat Podcast. Make sure you're subscribing to our show at Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or wherever you get your podcasts. Power Cat Podcast. All rights reserved. GoPowerCat.com.
Mean Girls is the #1 movie in America.
Get in, loser.
It's the party of the year and the most fun you'll have at the theater.
That is so fetch.
You won't stop laughing.
Like right now or like ever.
Mean Girls, rated PG-13, now playing only in theaters.